Story 1. Saw a dog in a small sweater sitting on a bench like a tiny human. Instant love. I think about him often. Story 2. I saw a girl at my subway stop the summer of 1997. She was really beautiful. I saw her several times and learned that she lived in the same dormitory as I did. A couple of weeks later, she sat down beside me in the TV room. We started talking. She was a bit cold, so I lent her my sweater. She loved my cologne, Acqua di Gio by Armani. The rest is history. We have now been together for 28 years and married for 23. We have 2 daughters, aged 20 and 22. Story 3. I knew the second I saw my husband that we would get married. He also had the same feeling when we met. Honestly, I was kind of upset since I wanted to be single for a while, and meeting him, I knew it was all over. Story 4. In Alanis Morissette style, I met the man of my dreams and his beautiful wife. I walked away, shook my head, and thought to myself, typical, of course the ones you want are already taken. A year later, I met him again on Tinder after his separation. We are still together and have a 4-year-old child. Story 5. Took a vacation with my brother-in-law back to his hometown in another country. Arrived at his family's house, and as I was introduced to his sister, I instantly fell in love and thought, I could marry this woman. Started a 5-year relationship. Story 6. My childhood friend's older brother answered the front door to their apartment. She was not home. My apartment was 1 floor above. When he shut the door, I began walking up the stairs and was so overcome that I literally fell against the floor and lay across the stairs in utter awe and disbelief at how attractive someone can be. Story 7. We actually knew each other online for a couple of years prior. A friend group planned a trip, and when we all met up, it was just something about the way we held each other's gaze. We are married now. Story 8. I had a friend in elementary school and ended up going to the same junior high. We said hi at lunch, and she introduced me to her friend. A small, blue-eyed, blonde-haired girl entered. When she smiled, she had a mouth full of braces and the softest voice. We said hi, and all I remember was constantly thinking about her and how different she looked compared to any girl I had ever seen. I always thought she looked familiar, and I came to realize I hung out with her older brother from time to time because they lived down the street. I also found out she was in my kindergarten class as well. We became best friends freshman year of high school and started dating senior year. We have been together for over 11 years and got married last year. I always remember just how different she looked to me when I first really met her and looked at her. I still think so to this day. Story 9. Hanging out at a local festival with a guy friend, I spotted a group of guys nearby. I said to my friend, I want one just like that, indicating a guy in the group who had his back to us. My friend said, I know him. I'll set you up on a date. I laughed and said no way. We went out 3 days later, became inseparable, and were married for 17 years. Story 10. The day I met my husband, I owned a coffee shop and he came in to place an order. For a moment, it was like everything stopped. I just knew. Somehow, something in me knew I had to be near him. I had never felt that before. He asked for my number a few months later, and the rest was history. Story 11. I was hitchhiking. He picked me up, said he knew me, and took me to my house. I was in love by the time we got there. It was a horrible mistake. He was not a good man. Story 12. When my ex came to pick me up for our first date, I was living with my family. When we saw each other, we lit up. A year into our relationship, my parents told us that they remembered how we looked when we saw each other. They said, we have never seen her so excited and joyful to see someone, which is still true today. I have never been so giddy to meet someone new. Yes, he is my ex, but I feel if we had met a few years later, we would still be together. I hope he gets the love and support he deserves, even if it is not from me. Story 13. Not going to lie, I saw this man at the library once, reading the same book I had just finished. We locked eyes for 2 seconds, and I swear it felt like time paused. I never saw him again. Story 14. So I met my current girlfriend through online dating. We chatted a few weeks before meeting, so it may not count. But when she walked through the door on our first date, wow, she was so stunningly beautiful. Her presence was commanding. It took only 12 seconds to know she would be the one. That has held true and grown beyond anything I ever imagined. Story 15. I have two major ones. I walked into my best friend's house about 10 years ago. He said, "Hey, I want you to meet my friend." We made eye contact for the first time, and my brain said, "This one's mine. We're getting married in October." Also, 2 years ago, we were walking into our apartment and saw this cat. I made eye contact with the cat and asked him, "Is that our cat?" He said, "No, it's very clean. They probably belong to someone." A week later, the cat forced its way into our place, literally through the door. We asked around and found out it was a stray. It has been our cat ever since. Story 16. This has happened to me with a girl. I always thought she was straight, but I was at the mall with my husband, who was asking about fixing his laptop. I was in my own world when I saw the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. Being in Colombia, my guess is that she's Colombian. She was wearing all black, and her whole back was exposed. Tight black bell-bottom jeans. She carried herself with such confidence. I wanted her so much that I said out loud, "Damn, I want her." I said it in English, and I don't think my husband understood since English is his second language. I stared at her like a dog as she walked past me. Of course, she smelled good. I saw her a few times that day walking around and still think about her. Story 17. Honestly, I did not believe in love at first sight. I thought maybe it was lust, not love. I believed in it when it happened to me. Do you know when that happened? The first time I saw my child. It really happens. It just happens and you do not know how or why. Story 18. When I was in sixth form, we had an exam. The young trainee teacher at the front had just gotten a placement at our school. I was so smitten that I spent most of the exam staring at her with a racing heart and butterflies. I was in love with her right up until the end of sixth form, where I planned to ask her out at the end of year prom. Weeks before the prom, I got into a fight and broke my eye socket and nose. I had surgery planned the same day, so I wasn't allowed to go. But against all advice and being told I would be mad to attend, I went as I needed to confess my love. Turning up to the party was met with huge applause and cheers from my friends because I hadn't been at school for a while to recover. It was all going so well and movie-like. I thought nothing could go wrong. Turned out she was in a committed relationship. So I did what all angsty teens do. I wrote a song about it for my band. Story 19. When my son was born, he was an unattractive little baby, objectively. He was born prematurely and had many issues. But I knew then and there that I was in love. I would die, I would live, and I would do anything for this boy. Story 20. Not your standard answer, but here goes. When I saw the picture of my now 6-year-old miniature schnauzer puppy, she was 6 weeks old at the time and a beautiful phantom black and silver. I fell in love instantly and did not want to get my hopes up too much as I waited for a response from her breeder, only to find out we were second in line behind someone who had already inquired. Obviously, it was meant to be because she became my best friend and my work partner as a therapy dog in my counseling office. I am truly her person, which was a first in our household. Story 21. Second date, he comes over to my apartment and leans against the back of my couch like he owns the place. My feelings of comfort and familiarity were so immediate with him, and he felt so right in my place despite the fact that he had never even been there. I have that image of him up against the couch forever seared into my mind. I barely knew him, but I felt love in that moment. Our breakup was the hardest thing I have ever had to endure. It needed to happen, and my life has gotten so much better since then, once I got over the immediate, difficult hump. But I will always expect to feel that comfortable and at peace with any future partner of mine, now that I have experienced it. Story 22. My tattoo artist. I had an immediate crush on him. My heart nearly exploded when he was near me and his hands touched my arm while tattooing. Story 23. Never thought that was real. Then I went on a date with my now ex-boyfriend. Something told me he was the one. I was kind of scared because of how sure I felt. Story 24. There is a strong urge in me to always help people. I met this girl who was in a very difficult situation. Her apartment was the size of a bathroom, and she shared it with two dogs and a cat. There was urine and roaches everywhere. She was breaking out all over her skin from living there. Long story short, I cleaned her infested apartment so she wouldn't lose her down payment. I did this alone because I was taking care of her while she had a bipolar episode and was unconscious. It was extremely traumatic to witness and to clean cat feces out of a closet. I helped her improve her appearance and encouraged her to look for a better job because she was an incredibly hard worker. The first night we spent together was unforgettable and things became very intense from there. I don't sleep around, so I can count my partners on two hands. That said, I am certain that the chemistry I shared with her will never be matched. She is now earning much more, no longer has bipolar attacks, and is very healthy. She recently married a man who looks exactly like me. He earns a lot of money and can take care of her, and I am very grateful. She will always be a part of my soul, and a part of my soul will always belong to her. She is one of a kind and very special. I am so thankful to have met her in this life. Story 25. I'd like to share my love story, which I think is very romantic. My boyfriend and I have been together for almost a year now, and it has been bliss. We have known each other since the start of middle school and were friends for 9 years before actually getting together. I still count it as love at first sight, just a slow burn version of it. When we met, my life became clearer. At the risk of sharing too much, my childhood was not good. Up until that point, my life felt aimless. When we met, it was like everything clicked. He will tell you that I'm the first person he ever truly fell in love with, and when he saw me, he knew that one way or another, I was going to end up being in his life because he wanted me in it forever. Both of our families hinted that we liked each other, but we both denied it out of fear that the other didn't feel the same, and because we didn't want to ruin the friendship. This was a common feeling for me with people in my life. I'm not sure if he was teased about it by his friends, but it felt like everyone knew before us that we acted differently around each other. One of my most fond memories from the beginning of our friendship was that he would always walk me home. Sounds simple, but I used to dread going home every day. I would stay after school at every club I possibly could just to delay going home. He was either in those clubs too or would wait for me because he knew it helped me feel safer. There were a couple of times he got in trouble with his dad for being home late, but he didn't care because he knew how much it meant to me. The talks we used to have during those walks were always so deep, and that also feels like a core part of our entire relationship. I feel like I can open up to him about anything. We had a period of time when we didn't talk, and that was one of the most difficult times in my life. We had a rough patch in our friendship, and I told him that I was done with him unless he did some serious growing. We didn't talk for maybe a year. My family knew not to bring him up because it was always a sensitive topic that would end in tears. We both missed each other so much, but neither of us wanted to cross boundaries. During that time, he still found a way to wish me a happy birthday on my birthday. He passed the message on through mutual friends, and I remember thinking how sweet that was. When I finally reached out again, I told him that this was his second and last chance. He never made me regret that decision. He proved to me that he could change, not only for me and the sake of our friendship, but also for himself with the motivation to get better. I still admire that about him so much. I had crushes on him on and off throughout the 9 years we were friends, and we both dated other people as well. We even briefly dated in 8th grade. The only reason we broke up then was because of societal pressures on my part. My friends were shallow and judgmental. Before we got together this time, I had just left a really bad relationship. In the last few months of that relationship, when it was very bad, my boyfriend was probably the only person I was honest with about how bad it was. My ex was sure he had a crush on me, but I was sure he didn't. I feel bad that I ended up with my ex, but at the same time, my ex was abusive, so I think it was meant to happen this way. Before we got together and after I broke up with my ex, I fell deeper and deeper in love and realization. I couldn't believe I didn't see it before, like my body had a reaction before my brain did. Everyone in my life said I was different around him, that I laughed harder and seemed happier. My grandparents, who I live with, would ask why I was up so late laughing into the night. I would smile when I thought of my boyfriend. He makes me laugh harder than anyone, and he always has. He was 100% worth the wait, and I trust him with everything. The last year has been perfect, and I feel like we understand each other on a level that is rare to find. He is my soulmate, and I hope we are together for a long, long time. Story 26. So the second I saw my ex, I knew that I liked him. I can't even explain it. It just felt different. It was at the gym, and I remember talking to my friends the moment we first met. I got a feeling I never had with anyone else. The chemistry was off the charts from the start. 5 years together, and the chemistry was always there. Unfortunately, the values and wants were not. The most movie-worthy moment was when I was at a college party, and this guy and I made eye contact from opposite ends of the dance floor. I definitely didn't love him, but I swear it was like in the movies where everything stops around you. We talked for a couple of months, but it never worked out. Story 27. At that moment, I heard my special one's voice. The most attractive thing is that my special one treats me like a queen. Story 28. Having the absolute longest day of my life cleaning in the morning before I headed out to study. Valentine's Day, I didn't even try to look nice. I passed a man on the road walking his dog. He had ginger curly hair, but that was all I could see from afar. I was about to cross the street the next block over when he appeared in front of me again. He flashed a beautiful warm smile, showcasing perfect white teeth and freckles scattered across his nose and cheeks. His hair was curly and a beautiful ginger red color. He was much taller than me by far and dressed so nicely for the day. I was so stunned I looked away immediately and never saw him again. I still think about that stranger, rent-free in my mind. Story 29. Not necessarily love but admiration when I saw a girl in my college. She was sitting on the veranda reading a book, and she looked so pretty. I really wanted to talk to her but decided not to. Story 30. The Maui Burst Mountain Dew at Dollar General. I love Mountain Dew and I love pineapple juice. Life has not been the same since. Now, if only Dollar General would improve their application to provide accurate inventory information. Story 31. I worked as a waitress while living in a homeless women's shelter. I worked every day from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., and it was exhausting. The rule at the shelter was to clean any dishes and anything else after using them and be home by 8 p.m. I hated cleaning, but missing curfew for work was allowed. I took my $37 in tips and went across the street to Subway. I always ordered the same sandwich, a meatball marinara with flatbread cut into fourths. I gave the person who made my sandwich a $5 tip because I knew they split the money from the tip jar. I didn't think that was fair. After about 2 weeks of ordering from Subway, I changed my order slightly, but the same woman had her coworkers make my sandwich every time. She wanted to be my friend, but I never went to her house or anything like that. One day, I was ordering and a man walked in to pick up an order for his roommates. We talked about going shopping for one-night stands, and he had to explain the joke that he didn't have one-night stands. It turned out that the woman and the man were friends. Eventually, I quit waitressing because of low pay. I went to her house every day to be her friend. Not to see him, but I saw him anyway. She told me not to fall in love with him or date him. After a month of being unemployed, he got me a job at his workplace. On my first day, we talked about life, religion, and politics. He had some interesting thoughts. I fell for him that day. Maybe not at first sight, but the feeling started then. We are getting married soon. I am now a stay-at-home mom to our child, and I go to college. Summary, he was a funny guy at Subway. Story 32. I went up to ask the professor a question at school. She approached from the other side. Just as I was about to ask, she came into my field of vision and I completely forgot everything. I just stared at her, dumbstruck like they show in movies. She wasn't even part of the discussion. I said, "I forgot my question," and walked off. Story 33. I met my current boyfriend of 2 years around 2019 while working at a restaurant. I don't know, there was just something about him. I got fired from the restaurant. We had a short relationship before, but 3 to 4 years ago I came back to the same restaurant and he was still there. I immediately felt the same feelings towards him, and we finally made it official. I couldn't imagine my life without him. He's my perfect match. Story 34. Only if. but the guy that I like mostly does not like me back. To make it worse, I always make the first move. But I am glad they are being honest and not wasting our time. Story 35. It was the last day of college semester, and I saw a really beautiful girl. I couldn't stop myself from looking at her. During the entire vacation, I kept thinking about her, even though I did not know her name. Later, after 2 months, I got to know about her. Story 36. My school crush. I have been through a lot and was very emotionally attached to him. At one point, something happened, and I had some grudges against him. But later, I fell in love with him again. I fell in love with him again now. I do not know if there is any way to get over first love. I still remember the day we entered class, and I saw him for the first time. After our section was shuffled and we ended up in the same section, the world seemed still, and I felt goosebumps and another level of euphoria after seeing him. Oh God. Story 37. It was a Thursday night. I saw him, and it felt like someone pushed me into a pool. I literally felt like I was falling backwards. I will never forget the feeling. It was hard to breathe for what felt like forever, but it was probably about 15 seconds. Story 38. I saw my brother's friend walking in slow motion with his luscious hair. Felt like the world stopped moving. Too bad I was too tired for him. I still remember that moment like 7 years later. Story 39. I met my current boyfriend a year before we became a couple. The first time we met, we did not speak at all. But I saw him again 3 to 4 days later in a completely different setting, and we both got really excited to see each other. I just jumped on him to give him a hug. It felt like a friendly interaction on both sides, as if we had known each other for a long time. I remember feeling a bit confused since that is not something I normally do, but I felt love toward him inside me. A year later, we started dating. It has been 8 years since. Story 40. At tuitions, when I was 12, she first spoke to me. She was 13, and I was instantly starstruck by her captivating eyes, lips like a rose, and hair like silk. For 6 years, she was my entire world. Then, just as simply, it was over. I am 24 now, and I know with a painful certainty that a love like that, your very first, only happens once. I will never love anyone the way I loved her. Story 41. The first time I made eye contact with my cat. He was the cat that genuinely made me wonder if what he and I had was a fated encounter. He was already a pretty friendly cat and had made his home in the backyard of someone's house. My siblings' then partner's friend. They were renting and couldn't keep pets, so they asked if anyone wanted a cat. I had considered wanting a cat for a while, but hadn't really done anything about it because I was still unsure. So I tagged along with my sibling and their significant other to check the cat out. My sibling's significant other also wanted a cat, but they wanted an orange one. The moment the cat and I made eye contact, the cat's pupils went wide, and he instantly ran over to me and started aggressively headbutting and rubbing himself all over my legs and hand. He tried to jump into my lap too. It was like he already knew who I was and was simply waiting for me to find him. He reacted as if he were saying, "It's you! I finally found you." He has since passed away after a good couple of years, but I will never forget him. I also haven't had a cat since him, and I don't know if I ever will. Story 42. Through a very peculiar combination of unlikely events, I got to go to a dinner party at a restaurant I absolutely could not afford. A group of people I kind of knew were celebrating an event. I vaguely saw a remarkably beautiful woman sitting at the same table and thought, cute, massively out of my league. Then sat with my friend. Someone received a call about a family emergency, so people on the far side of the table moved down 2 or 3 seats, bringing us all closer together. This placed me and the beautiful woman directly in front of each other. Her eyes were lighting up as she looked at me. I thought, I am in so much trouble. Story 43. My best friend and I met the first week of high school. She was really shy and sat at the back of the class in front of a window. I remember the sun peeking through her hair. She had distinct, fluffy hair. I walked into English and immediately knew I liked her. She passed away 4 years ago after 13 years of being my best friend. I think about her every day. Story 44. I went to a party at a football club room with a group of people I did not know. I was standing inside, looking out the window across the field, and two people were standing outside in the dark talking. I had no idea why, but I was drawn to one of the silhouettes. I could not keep my eyes off them. I really wanted to see who it was because I felt inherently fixated on them. Eventually, they came into the light, and it was one of the most beautiful hippie girls I have ever seen. She was so beautiful that I was scared to go and talk to her. But after a few drinks, I worked up the courage, and we ended up talking all night. We slept together and found each other on social media the next day. It turned into a year-long relationship that only ended because of distance and the coronavirus disease. That is a part of my life that I will always cherish. Story 45. My ex-husband was a friend of a friend and had heard I was looking for a job in post-production. We had never met. He called me. I am from the South, so I said, "Thanks, darling." At the end of the conversation, he is from the North and had a really low voice and chuckled. We moved in together a month later. We both admitted it was the phone call that did it. Story 46. When I saw that red dress, I tried it on and it looked very good. So I bought it and it is mine forever. Story 47. Saw her smile across the room and forgot what I was talking about mid-sentence. My brain just said, "Yes, that is the one." Story 48. Never, I don't think it exists. You can have a crush at first sight, and you can like how a person acts or behaves. But love is something far deeper and stronger that builds over time when you actually get to know someone. Story 49. Met my girlfriend when we were 12 to 13 through mutual friends and neighbors. I immediately had a crush on her and wanted to be around her all the time. She became one of my best friends, and we started dating 10 years later. Turned out she had secretly liked me too. Story 50. I went to this taco shop once and never understood what the phrase breathtaking actually meant until I saw a man sitting at a table eating with a friend. In moments like that, it really feels like you stop breathing for a second. From what I remember, he was blonde, wore a belt, a flannel shirt, and work boots. I recall both of them leaving in a really bulky black van. Story 51. I was on a first date with someone I met online. We quickly found out that not only do we have a lot of the same friends, but also, we had been to the same folk high school, but 1 year apart, a one-semester boarding school many people attend during their gap years for fun. I had been to some large gatherings that he had helped organize, and I might have even watched him play a concert there, but I am not sure. I was in a university class with one of his good friends. We knew all the same people but had never met before as far as we know. It was very funny, but we stopped dating after a while. Story 52. Second day of my freshman year of high school. My mother and I went to her coworker's house when I saw him. I fell hard at the first glance of those orange eyes and the first tiny little meow. My mother's coworker found a sweet little black kitten but couldn't keep him. My father said no at first, but then had a 48-hour guilt trip before convincing himself to say yes because he was afraid the kitten would be put to sleep since he was so small. I detested cats at first, but he won me over in 5 seconds flat. This sweet boy stayed with us for 22 years. Story 53. Love at first sight, but not romantic love. I first saw him when I started comprehensive school. He was hanging from one of the ledges in the stairwell, and I noticed him instantly and thought, he's cool. We managed to maintain an easy friendship for 27 years until we drifted apart a year or so ago. I always think fondly of him. I love the essence of the man. No terms and conditions. Story 54. Reconnected with a middle school classmate as adults and shared what happened over the years. "I'm sorry you had to go through that," he said. I looked in his eyes for the first time, and it was like, oh no. Story 55. When I saw a photo of a puppy for sale, it was a French bulldog, cream-colored. He was so cute and cool. I must say, I chose him without hesitation and took him for myself. He was my best friend for many years. I love him. Story 56. I walked in the mall when a police squad walked past me, and I locked eyes with the most beautiful brown eyes. I was stunned. I had never wanted a dog like this more in my life until I did my research and found out it was a Belgian Malinois. Gorgeous dogs. Story 57. When I was 20, I went to a party and there was a boy there who was so stunningly beautiful it hurt. Gorgeous warm eyes, tall, beautiful blonde hair, dressed like he was already in some independent band somewhere with a denim jacket and a beanie. I chatted with him and he looked at me with such intensity it took my breath away. He smiled like the sun. The next time I saw my cousin, who had been the host, I asked her about him and told her how much he had distracted me. Yeah, she said, he has that effect on people. I saw him a few times after that and was always very careful to hide my debilitating crush on him because I was worried it would make him uncomfortable. 2.5 years later, he asked me out. Our 2-year anniversary was last month. I am sitting in bed next to him right now. I am the luckiest girl on earth. Story 58. Some girl's tweets appeared on my timeline, and I thought she was really funny, so I started following her. A couple of months later, I saw her at an event, and although we didn't meet there, I completely fell in love with her. She is gorgeous and the funniest person I have ever met. A year later, we met through some mutual friends, and I was very nervous knowing it would be the first time interacting with her. After that meeting, we started talking more and more, and she confessed to having feelings for me too. Things happened, the best 5 months of my life, but it ended. A year has passed since then, and I am still not able to move on. Story 59. When I saw Selena Gomez for the first time on screen, my heart skipped a beat. But that's just silly. I don't even know her and basically never will. Story 60. Freshman in high school, I attended orientation night for the speech and debate team in the 1990s. The captain of the team was giving his presentation, wearing a sweater vest and tennis shoes. I was hooked. We are still enjoying it together to this day. Story 61. It's not love at first sight, but I can't make sense of it. I met a man, and the second I saw him, I had the thought that we would get married. I know it sounds insane. I felt like I already knew him, a vague familiarity. I didn't find him that attractive, maybe just cute at most. I also didn't think he would find me attractive, since my objectively more beautiful friend was with me. It was a stressful period of my life, so I was closed off to anything. He and I cross paths semi-regularly because of the context in which we know each other. It has become so obvious he has a crush on me. I do too, but we haven't broken the barrier. It's just silly. I barely know him. But isn't it interesting that I looked at him and knew something would develop? And it did on both sides. Story 62. I met a girl. I texted my brother and told him I had just met my wife. We are married with a 2-year-old daughter now. Turns out she felt the same. Story 63. He used to come for a beer to the place I worked at. After many months, he asked me to join him and his friend for a drink. It took me 3 minutes to fall in love with him and almost 3 years to get over him. I don't think I will experience something like that ever again. Story 64. Seeing my now 12-year-old dog sitting like a little princess, staring at me at the animal shelter in her cage during my search for a new dog. 11 years of being best friends and complete love at first sight. Story 65. My wife came to town to go to school and showed up at the church I was attending one Sunday morning. I told my friends, "Don't bother, fellas. I am marrying her." 3 years later, we were married and have stayed married for over 30 years. Story 66. I saw Florence Pugh in the trailer for Lady Macbeth. I am positive I leaned forward in my seat. Sounds dumb, but it is true. Story 67. When I hooked up with a guy for the first time, I was afraid he would reject me because I was chubby, but he took me back to his place and told me to take my shirt off. He said, "Don't be ashamed of your body. You are beautiful the way you are." That is what made me fall in love with him. Story 68. Went to an animal rescue center looking for a young dog and came away with a 9.5-year-old lady who was so lithe and elegant. Instant love. Story 69. The second I met my dog, I fell in love and knew I wanted to keep her. It is 10 years later, and I love her more than anything. Story 70. I have had several. A cup of coffee, my darling cat, and most recently 8 gorgeous Korean men. Yes, it is a Korean pop group. Story 71. This one boy in Rome as a teenager. Another boy in a school play at my friend's school as a teenager. Story 72. I was eating at a cafe. A random man with a dimple entered and held the door open for his mother, sister, and grandmother. He paid for their food and entertained his family with jokes. I have never felt so sad for not asking his number. Story 73. I was on my way to work, on the subway, and this girl was sitting across from me. She was a gorgeous brunette with blue eyes and a freckled face, wearing simple jeans and a cardigan. The subway was closing down, so all of us had to get off. Somehow, I ended up seeing her outside. We started talking and shared an Uber since we were going in the same direction. We talked about what we were both studying in school and our love of music, but I never got her number. No romantic connection. But wow, what a cool woman. I never saw her again. Story 74. When I matched with my current boyfriend twice on Tinder. Once years prior, but I dated someone else then. 2 years later, after my ex and I broke up, I knew we were meant to be. Story 75. I met my partner at an old workplace. He was going down the stairs and I was coming up. We were introduced very briefly by a manager while passing each other. Instantly, all I could think was, wow, I want to follow this person wherever they go. Even before learning his name, I was immediately drawn to him. The next day, we went out for drinks. 2.5 years later, I wouldn't want it any other way. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.